What's happening, everybody? Welcome back to another episode. I want to thank you so much for tuning in. Rest assured, today we're going to get into all kinds of things from local Philadelphia celebrity gossip, drunken antics, to big breakout and awesome, world breaking and world defining news from just local Philadelphia film media, which you wouldn't know about if I wasn't sharing it with you, as well as inside scoops, which you never get if there wasn't someone like me listening to all the talk radio options out there and digging up just the absolute best clips for you. But first, if you're tuning into this, I want to thank you and I want to reward you with Everybody Loves Raymond second season. Look, they don't even call it season 2. It's just called second season on the back of this. Isn't that crazy, man? So if you love Everybody Loves Raymond, or most likely your mom loves Everybody Loves Raymond, leave the first comment on this video and you will in fact win a second season of Everybody Loves Raymond. I know it's something you dreamed about. They've got all the DVDs inside there. I mean, it's absolutely beautiful. Remember when they made DVDs like this? You've got all the main characters featured. Robert, the parents, I don't know what their freaking names are, man, but they're there, rest assured. So leave that comment below, and then I will reach out to you on that comment, and we can email from there, and I will get you Everybody Loves Raymond second season. Rest assured, people, there'll be more rewards besides that. But starting off here, I actually want to, kind of get into the most important thing, which, whether you're lib, whether you're far right in this country, I think we can all agree irresponsible gun use is never a good idea. Whether you love your gun, you definitely don't like, the shite heads who walk around and mess it up for the rest of you. And if you really are anti-gun, I can imagine that you really don't like anything that has to do with them. We don't really care which way you are here, but I do want to show you this little treat here, courtesy of ABC News in Philadelphia, with a gun situation at Rita's Water Ice, which happened here. Which, by the way, I realize not everybody's probably familiar with water ice. That is a substance wherein they freeze a liquidy, fruity flavored treat, if you will, and serve it to you in the form of, well, really like an icy. There's hardly any water to it until it actually starts to melt. But we love the conundrum here in Philadelphia, so we just go with it. So that's a water ice. And obviously, this woman really, really needed her water ice so bad, she had to pull her gun out for it.
Police are trying to identify the woman who pulled out a gun while waiting in line for water ice at Rita's. Here's surveillance video from July 21st showing that altercation in East Mount Airy. This is the 6900 block of Stenton Avenue. Now, during the argument, police say the woman pulled a gun out of her purse and threatened the other woman. She later drove off in her blue Mitsubishi compact SUV. Anyone with information is asked to call police.
You heard that, people. Blue Mitsubishi. However, just remember that age-old statement about snitches. Now, it doesn't mean necessarily that we're endorsing here on this show that pulling your gun out at Rita's is okay. In fact, I actually literally can't think of a single thing about Rita's or any ice cream experience that would warrant pulling an actual gun out, unless it was something predating the Rita's experience. Like, even if they budged in front of you and you were trying to get like a big order for like a party or something, what are you out, like $80 in a little bit of time? I just don't quite understand the exigence of bringing the gun out. So most importantly, what I'm trying to say is I would love to get that woman on this show, interview her, and find out why she felt the need to bring her gun out. If she comes on the show, we'll support her, we'll give her a platform, and we'll let her explain herself so that the whole story can get out there. Another story that was pretty interesting, which popped up during the week on Wednesday morning. I believe that Joe DeCamara has been taking the entire week off with the WIP morning show. And that's like our big sports station here in Philadelphia. They have the Eagles, so that automatically makes them number one, in case you're not familiar with that. But on the WIP morning show, John Ritchie, who is a former Eagle, often likes to talk about his exploits with his time at Michigan. And, he'll kind of explain the whole story, but he was a Michigan football player. Obviously, that comes with a lot of big shotness. And one thing that came with that was partying with the Savage brothers. So as promised in the thumbnail and description here, we're going to give you the story of John Ritchie partying with apparently a very underage Ben Savage. Please, John Ritchie, explain yourself.
Devin, was Boy Meets World the one with Fred Savage's brother?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. With Ben
and
Savage.
I told you that Ben used to come to the parties.
Yeah, because I always forget you went to college with
I went to college with Fred, and there were a few times that Ben was there, and we all knew, like, that's the Boy Meets World kid. Like, he's a kid. Like, he's not supposed to be at this event. Like, we are at a college party.
Yeah.
That kid, what's he drinking? Hold on, what's in that cup over there?
I'm sure you were
Everyone
very
felt like we had to take care of this. He was a boy.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't take care of him, though.
No,
but he was there.
Don't admit to any crimes.
It's still cool, though.
You can't give minors alcohol and all that stuff.
You're right. That's true. I did not. I observed from afar that debauchery.
It was non-alcoholic beer. I swear.
Corey, this isn't you.
No, of course it isn't. Somebody influenced him, didn't someone?
Now, that was obviously edited together just for the fun of it. But, man, what a fun story. John Ritchie hanging out with Fred Savage and his little brother, Ben Savage, which, of course, if you're from this area, you know your Boy Meets World. Honestly, if you're like around my age, early 30s, you're familiar with Boy Meets World, whether you freaking hated it or kind of liked it. Actually, I thought it was actually kind of decent for its money worth. I have always heard that Ben Savage is a little bit of a dick, so not at all surprising that he was like going to college parties and acting like a big shot even back then, even though John Ritchie, just casually observed him partying there at his time in Michigan. Still good for him. And I mean, speaking of the party, I'd be remiss in not mentioning that Shane Gillis has been in town working out. I guess his upcoming special, he's been here in Philly working it out, especially at Helium Comedy Club on Monday nights, just kind of getting his material right. But this past week, he was spotted at Bonner's Bar, I believe, in Philadelphia. And here you go. I mean, caption says it all. Shane Gillis versus Zach Bryant. Chug off. So Shane Gillis, Zach Bryant were hanging out. Along with that, of course, was Brianna Chicken Fry, who, if you're not familiar, she's from the Dave Portnoy Best Friends podcast. Really awesome watch. If you haven't seen it, we are going to check a clip of that out in just a moment. But Brianna Chicken Fry, she's really chill, man. She fucking dates Zach Bryant. Here you go. That's the two of them together. And Shane Gillis working some material out in Philadelphia, goes out with the boys, some comedians. I have it from my personal sources that the great Crack Amico was there. Shout out Crack Amico, man. He's making the absolute best comedy raps in the fucking game right now. There's literally no denying it. So shout out Crack Amico. But he was there, man, rolling with the big dog himself, beers and whiskey cokes, if you will. Well, no whiskey cokes, as you know, that is Tony Hinchcliffe, if you're keeping up with the lore. But yeah, man, Zach Bryant there hanging out with Brianna Chicken Fry and Crack Amico. So really just an all-star cast here in Philadelphia. Forget Austin. Philadelphia is probably most likely the up-and-coming third biggest scene. I mean, come on. All of our comics moved to LA or Austin or New York. So, of course, Philadelphia is going to be a great place to prosper and survive. My favorite, if you don't know Brianna Chicken Fry, my favorite clip of her, which, by the way, in no way do we endorse this upcoming statement from Theo Vaughn, but my favorite clip of her does come from the Best Friends podcast. Shortly after, I guess, Theo Vaughn did a podcast with her. And I mean, let me just say, guys, like, no matter what you're going through, whether it's been a little while since you've actually had a girlfriend or maybe even been with a woman. I mean, look, man, it's shameful, but you can look in the mirror and you can get it together. The one thing I don't want you to ever do is I don't want you to ever get so desperate and thirsty, even if you're doing well, which obviously Theo Vaughn is. Don't get so desperate and thirsty for any individual girl that you make such disgusting comments that you give her the ick. So this is pretty much the best example that exists, I personally believe, of giving a girl the ick. And it comes from the great Theo Vaughn, who, to be clear, I'm a fan of. I like Theo. I think he's great. I think his show is really entertaining for the most part. His comedy, pretty okay, you know, for a reality star. Guy got to start in reality TV. But here you go. Here is the Best Friends podcast bringing up a particularly interesting statement from Theo. I think they've made, to be fair, I will give a disclaimer. I think these two have made up and kind of sorted it out since then, I believe. But let's be honest, is there any coming back from this?
Theo likes Brie? Question mark.
Dang.
What's this?
That was a little weird.
We just had Brianna chicken fry on, actually.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
She's great.
Yeah, she's interesting.
What do you mean?
She's interesting, boy. She's got them tits, boy. Sorry.
T-I-T.
I didn't say it, but there's a
lowercase
part
s.
of me inside of me that said it. Sometimes there's a party that comes to the surface and he's like, guess what I'm going to say?
Yeah, she got them done.
Yeah, she did. Boy, I'd freaking do them, dude. You give me fucking half hour and some of that Michelangelo clay or whatever, I'd fucking put a third one on there.
Not my
He's
favorite.
very infatuated by your tits, eh?
It's a tough clip.
Yeah, definitely.
It's a tough
Not
clip.
overly surprising from Theo. Who's the
Yeah,
guy
it's
who?
like Theo Vaughn.
Who's the other guy?
Oh,
Wallace.
that's Trevor Wallace. He's I went on his pod. He came on mine. He's cool.
He's a
Got
funny
it.
guy, funny lad.
Funny guy. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Probably.
Probably
I don't
not
want to
my
say
favorite
predictable.
clip,
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right.
Drunk fan thinks she meant me. I haven't seen this.
Tough clip. That's one of my favorite clips of all time. Dave Portnoy saying tough clip. He's right, man. You can see it in his face at the very end of that clip when he just like leans back. He's like, oh, I shouldn't have even played this, man. The female coworker that I literally do my podcast with feels horrendously uncomfortable. Again, gentlemen, all because Theo couldn't control himself. So let there be a lesson to all of us, man. Control yourself. One thing I noticed that was a little out of control recently was the Joe Rogan comedy special, and particularly with that his titty sweat. So, oh man, whether you thought the Joe Rogan comedy special was funny, whether you thought it was absolutely horrendous, didn't laugh at a single part of it, I got my own personal entertainment out of it. You know, it's good to have community and people that you can kind of connect with and discuss things with as far as comedy goes. But one thing none of us can deny is how out of control Joe Rogan's titty sweat was. So this was actually pretty crazy. First off, mad respect for Joe Rogan for doing a live comedy special. No matter what, doing a live show always takes a little bit of chutzpah, you know, so he got out there, he got it done. Again, for my money's worth, I was very entertained watching it, but I don't think it was exactly the kind of entertainment that Joe Rogan was necessarily going for. And the one thing that none of us can deny here is that there's been a lot of criticism about mainly Joe Rogan's use of, bumped the mic there, Joe Rogan's use of jokes and reusing those jokes over and over again. Now, I'm not just talking about the things he's conceptualized on his podcast. I mean, of course, everybody, you know, has ideas. If you run a podcast as popular as Joe Rogan, you're going to express ideas that get put out there. What I'm talking about is literal jokes that he's taken from previous specials, lifting them into this special. Now, one thing I want to play here is the great comedy enforcement, who I think sums up like the cardinal sin of what Joe Rogan's doing here best. And he kind of puts it in words that I could only dream to imagine. But comedy enforcement does really kind of put it together here with like, especially for someone who he admits is a Joe Rogan fan, you really get a sense of like what the problem is with him reusing these jokes. And again, you might say, hey, well, he's a comic. Every comic kind of has their go-tos. Is it really so bad for him to just have something that he can kind of lean on? Well, definitely not. But the problem is number one, Joe Rogan is famously a huge proponent of do not reuse your material. So he is like dead set on that whole like do not reuse your material, work through something in a year, and then be done with it and get moving on. So we'll see what comedy enforcement has to overall kind of say about it. I think he sums up the problem with the special pretty well.
And by the way, according to Joe Rogan, the Comedy Mothership was supposed to be a place where comedians could pretty much say whatever they wanted without risk of getting canceled or someone potentially recording them and putting it online. And if the result was Joe Rogan's new comedy special, maybe that approach is not the best for comedy. And by the way, I'm sure you know this already, but based on what I've heard on the podcast and what I've seen online, the way that Joe Rogan runs the club, it's pretty much the most comfortable and the safest spots for a comedian to perform comedy at. And I'm actually curious what other comedians think about that, if it's good or bad. And I mean, I'm sure no one will ever say that it's a bad spot. But I wonder if long term, if it affects people's comedy or if it just sets unrealistic expectations. Because again, everyone that goes to the Mothership has been waiting for months, to get tickets, and they're just happy to be there. And they actually have a database of everyone that goes to the club with their face and information, it's pretty wild.
Pretty wild. I have to agree with comedy enforcement there. That's pretty wild to have a database of every single person that comes to your club. Please explain to us, Joe, why do you need our identification and our information? But I mean, there you have it, man. Like, again, it's this whole idea that maybe Joe Rogan has been working from home, if you will, with the Comedy Mothership. I'm sure, I haven't been myself. I'm sure the Comedy Mothership is a really great place. If you love stand-up comedy, that's got to be a great place to see a show. But let's be honest, it's become a tourist location. So for most people, they're planning to go. Like comedy enforcement said, man, they're putting months aside. It's like a vacation that they have all planned out. They're hoping to see maybe some of their favorite comics. Maybe they're going to go see Kill Tony or another podcast show that they really love that takes place in the area. So people are like anticipating it, which at the end of the day is a very soft environment. And what podcast enforcement is getting at the very end of that video, which I don't think he quite touches on because he's a nice guy. But what I'll come out and say is one thing he's touching on with the whole them taking pictures and keeping shit in the database is that if you like stirred things up, which I'm not endorsing heckling outright on this show. If you do it, I'm fine with it. I don't have a problem with it, but we're not endorsing it and we're not supporting it. What I will say is if you do it at the Mothership, you're banned for life. I mean, come on, man. Like, so there's absolutely no pushing back whatsoever or even remotely creating like a challenging situation for a comic, which, as we've seen, whether you love Joe Rogan's comedy special or thought it kind of sucked, no matter what, this thing's been met with mixed reviews, no matter what. So whether you love it or you hate it, you can't deny that there's people who are saying, yeah, it's actually really good. You don't understand it. You don't get comedy. There's also a lot of people saying this objectively was retired material, somewhat retired to material, if you will. And maybe even worst of all, material that should be retired because it was just too old and too irrelevant. I know it took you 6 years to make a comedy special, Joe Rogan, but just because it was funny 5 years ago or 4 years ago, I'm especially thinking like a lot of the COVID jokes, which I don't care at all about misinformation coming from Joe Rogan. If you're going to Joe Rogan for facts, you have much bigger problems going on in your life than going to Joe Rogan for facts. So in no way, shape, or form should his comedy or podcast ever be taken with any serious amount of advice giving. So all the people saying, complaining about misinformation, that's ridiculous to me. The thing that does matter, though, is Joe, again, being a hypocrite, retelling jokes that he's literally told in comedy specials before. And, maybe most importantly, the whole work from home thing, because quite famously, Joe Rogan, has been like a big proponent of like, I'm not going to like be supporting of people working from home. Sometimes he supported the worker. But more recently, he's kind of come out with the like people are being lazy working from home, which there's some argument there to be made. But let's be honest, who wants to hear a billionaire like Joe Rogan tell us how we should or shouldn't be working? So real quick, I want to show you this clip of the Comedy Mothership and what it's like for someone to try and walk in like without the official process. I don't condone what this guy Frio TV here did, but it was pretty entertaining. You just try to walk into the mothership, but look at how they treated him.
Excuse me. All right, appreciate it. Can I help you? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm with the crew. Which crew? The camera crew, the media crew. No, you can't. Yeah. Hey, whoa. Hey, I'm sorry. I thought this was America, bro. No. I thought this. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought this was America. I'm with the crew, bro. I'm with the crew. Joe sent me. Hey. Joe sent me, bro. Joe sent me, dude. Joe sent me. He told me. He sent me. He sent me on. Security staff told me can't get inside. Okay. Talk to them first, right? All right. Well, you'll be hearing this from my people. Cool. Go. This is not America.
There you go, man. Joe Rogan oftentimes thought quite synonymously with patriotism. Is this not America, bro? Not even letting the great Frio TV into his club. I don't know how he thought he was just going to get in there without like a ticket or any kind of like paying price of admission. He's with the camera crew. But you saw how intense that was, man. Like 5 guys swarmed him immediately with guns and bulletproof vests. They're like, get the out of here, dude. Get out of here. So there you go. Imagine what happens to you if you're a heckler. They got your picture at Joe Rogan's club. You heckle, and then those guys with the guns take you out into the back and just like execute you. War style. Well, I'm not saying that necessarily happens. In fact, I have no evidence based on that. But the point is, Joe Rogan's been doing his comedy at the mothership, just kind of getting by on his own crowd. They're all excited to see him. I mean, of course, if you went to the mothership and Joe Rogan came out and did his material, you would laugh out of nervousness. It's like going to lunch with your boss, right? You're like, oh, great. You want me to act normal? That's not going to happen. You're in a position of authority over me. I'm at the mothership. I'm going to listen to you. So I just thought that this clip with Joe talking to Tom Segura from an episode this past year, I think this was almost like a year ago. But this little clip, I thought was kind of interesting in regards to his
people don't want to go to offices still anymore.
Yeah, they want to do remote work.
They want to do remote work,
pajamas and jerk off.
So the people who, if you have these big commercial buildings, I mean, it used to be like this huge asset to own this commercial real estate, and now it's like a liability because you have empty offices, dude. You have empty offices all over the country, and you can't fill them up. You can't force people. And then there's companies that have just. I know somebody that owns a company that said he goes. I like a lot of people goes. I wanted people to come here. I want them in the office, and he was met with like such total resistance. He goes, I just realized I had to allow it. Like if we were going to continue to operate.
Wow.
So he just gave in to his employees going, no, we don't want to do that.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's a sizable operation he has.
Wow. So people just say, no, I want to work at home.
Yeah.
No, I want to work at home. The most ironic part of that clip, and the reason I wanted to share it, is because Joe is acting as if like, oh, so people just say, no, I just want to work from home. Wasn't that the same thing as just wanting to do comedy at your personally built comedy club? Now, again, I understand why Joe's had to put a lot of time and energy and spend a lot of time at the mothership while he gets it running. But he definitely hasn't been doing touring and doing other clubs or going to other parts of the country where people might give him a little pushback. I'm not saying heckle him or anything, but even just experiencing crowds that maybe aren't laughing that hard at the jokes, or he's realizing, oh, maybe this is a little bit played out. No, instead, Joe has no idea how to personally relate to the idea of people not wanting to go back to work when, in fact, he's really doing that at the Comedy Mothership. I love his little comment, too, about people just want to stay in their pajamas and jerk off at home. More power to you. I imagine that probably is one of the benefits of being able to work from home. I have no idea what that's like. My job does not allow me to work from home. I need to be on site for it. But I love this metaphor of just jerking off in your pajamas, and then Joe goes and literally shits the bed or sweats the shirt. Let's say literally sweats the shirt on his comedy special, and kind of ends up taking an L on that. So yeah, I genuinely thought that was actually pretty funny. Bad comedy special for the summer to just kind of go along with bad movies. So actually, the first movie I'm going to start with here, not a bad movie at all. Maxine. I quite enjoyed the final movie in the X trilogy, right? I think it's called the X trilogy. These movies are out there. They're feminist as fuck. I kind of enjoy them, man. If you're up for just insanity and this weird like lore around this character that they've built up through these Blumhouse, right? These are Blumhouse productions. I think you're gonna like the final conclusion. One of the themes we're gonna get with all these movies I'm gonna touch on, even though they're almost going to get progressively worse as I talk. Actually, they will. They'll get progressively worse. But there's no woke. They are, in fact, abandoning the woke message. Whether you're pro-woke, anti-woke, I hate to tell you, or maybe I'm glad to tell you, woke is fading. They're not really including it so heavily in movies anymore. Speaking of which, Twisters. This movie stinks. All the insane people online telling you that Twisters is pretty good. Watch Twisters, decide for yourself, but I thought it was very forgettable and predictable and generic in apparently for a lot of people a very welcomed way. Again, it wasn't woke. There was kind of a nice twist with like the characters in the beginning, or sort of, spoiler alert here, painted as being like arrogant and sort of the antagonists. Turns out they're the good guys. So that kind of signified like a nice welcome change. The beginning of this movie is awesome. I will say, I'll actually take a quick aside and say that I have not had as big of a crowd reaction in a movie that I've gone to see probably since Avengers Endgame as I did when Twisters took place. The beginning of that movie, everyone freaked out in that beginning scene. They were like making a lot of noise. People were super hyped, but it died down from there. So again, this movie, very good start, kind of slows down in the middle. Deadpool and Wolverine is just garbage. It's just hot, unfunny garbage. If you like Deadpool humor, you're maybe going to enjoy it. I thought I liked Deadpool. I love the first Deadpool. I like the second Deadpool. This one feels like a lot of the same. I don't necessarily hate it. Obviously, you can see I enjoy Wolverine. I enjoy Weapon X. It was cool to see him back in, his element, killing people and actually getting to do it in a bloody and gory way, but very unfunny movie in my opinion. And of course, like the nonsense and the gags, it works for comedy film. I'm not criticizing it from a structural perspective on that, but for me personally, not doing it is just way too much. And maybe the cardinal sin of this movie is all the repeats, not just from the previous movies, but I swear this movie had like every joke in it gets told twice. There's so many things that just repeat themselves in this movie. Two, again and again and again. How many times do two characters that can heal from every single injury need to fight each other? Doesn't seem necessary. But at the end of the day, it was fun. People enjoyed it. I liked seeing a lot of the cameos. Again, big spoiler, seeing Blade, Channing Tatum's Gambit, like a somewhat proper Gambit for once. Carmen Electra back. I've always loved her, so seeing her again is great. That actually made it kind of worth it. But ultimately, I would not recommend, man. You don't need to waste your time with it unless you just love Deadpool and Marvel. And then the worst movie, I just saw this last night, Trap. Let me know what you think about this. I get my seats ahead of time, as we all do now. There's two people sitting in mine and my wife's seat when I walk in. I look real quick. I double check. I'm like, yeah, they're definitely in our seats. I go, sorry, you're in our seats. They go, well, those people down there are in our seats. I'm like, how's that my problem? Sorry. Guess you got to ask them to move. Am I a dick for asking them so blunt? Like, it's your problem now. I'm not playing musical chairs with you and going picking a random seat so that I got to move. Just what ask you ultimately for this seat back? So yeah, that was the most exciting thing that happened with my trip to Trap, confronting someone for the actual seat. This movie stinks. M. Night Shyamalan's kind of like that, right? I liked his last movie, House of the Cabin. It's not great, but it's worth the watch. This movie stinks. Only redeeming thing about it is Josh Hartnett. His name's right up there, plastered at the top. Josh Hartnett, literally the only redeeming aspect of this movie. He's great, and it's almost a shame that him as like a psychotic serial killer is wasted on this vanity project to make M. Night Shyamalan's daughter popular. She stinks in this movie, and we need to bury her career and just forget about her. Let's all make a pact on that. M. Night Shyamalan's daughter. To be fair, I do think I need to watch her in something else because Josh Hartnett is so good in this movie that he kind of puts her to shame. So maybe I need to see her in something else where she's not just getting completely upstaged and outperformed. But until that day, she stinks, and we don't need to actually pay attention to her. Last couple of things I want to touch on here. Everybody hated the finale of Hot D, House of the Dragon. Yeah, I agree. As someone who has read the books, I can tell you it kind of stinks. I even kind of worry about how they might jump the shark and where they're going to take this show. We got a lot of Rhaenyra and Alicent. Rhaenyra is not mean enough in the show. Alicent is like too involved in the show at this point. Her character needs to start taking a backseat to her kids, but of course they can't allow that. And I like the actress who plays Alicent as much as the next person, but they need to figure out something to do with it. We're not getting enough Daemon, man. We're not getting enough Daemon and Carnage. To be fair, I did not hate the Daemon and Harrenhal thing. Like, I'm not someone who thinks that was such a big deal. He's not doing anything at that point in the book. So if they're going to slow the story down that much, they got to come up with something for the dude to do. And I mean, to me, that's pretty much like as good as anything. But I do want to end this show on a positive note. So besides the fact that House of the Dragon kind of sucks and is maybe going the direction that Game of Thrones went, let's hope not. But maybe. Big news here. Hayride to Hell is getting an international release. So on this channel, we reviewed Hayride to Hell. Phenomenal movie. Came out 2 years ago. I ended up going to the premiere for this thing up near Malvern where it was filmed. So here you go. Horror movie filmed at Malvern Farm gets international release. You're goddamn right. It's about time. Bill Moseley. Let's try to get this ad out. Oh, great. We'll just try to minimize that then. Bill Moseley and Kane Hodder, the guy who played Jason in like I don't know. He played like Jason in like 9 out of the 10 Jason movies. But these two absolutely crush it. I got a review on the channel for Hayride to Hell, so definitely check that out. But they are getting a massive international release from Breaking Glass Pictures. They have pretty good reviews. The worst thing I've heard about Breaking Glass Pictures is they kind of drop the ball on marketing, which is why we're doing a little promotion for Hayride to Hell. We want to try to get it out there. But this movie getting released on Breaking House Pictures. They're their own independent distributor, so I imagine you might have to go there in order to watch it. But nonetheless, this will be the time, man. You can go see it. Film set on the Cox family rural farm. Bill Moseley tries to get his bloody revenge on the local townspeople, including Sheriff Jubel, Kane Hodder, who has been trying to steal the family farm from Moseley's character for the past 200 years. That's poorly written. Kane Hodder has not been trying to steal the family farm for the past 200 years. That's insane. and illogical. His family has been trying to steal it from Mosley's family for the past 200 years, but not that individual character. Starring all these extra people, Balil, the dude from oh man, I feel so bad. I can't even remember, but the character Balil, man, he is the absolute best in that movie. So keep your eyes peeled for Hayride to Hell. That movie is awesome. Again, a couple of years ago, we actually did a review. It was one of our first reviews that we did on this channel. So you can go back and check that out. I do apologize. There is a little bit of poor quality involved in that. But hey, what are you going to do when you're first starting off and learning things? You got to start somewhere. So yeah, man, I recommend checking out Hayride to Hell. I think this is a movie that needs to end up on like best of the worst from Red Letter Media. I'm really hoping that one day we're going to get to see that. But until then, you're just going to have to check it out for yourself and go see it before it becomes a cult classic that becomes hard to see. I highly, highly recommend it. So that's it. Thank you for tuning in. Again, if you stuck around this long, again, you know, we got all kinds of fun things happening in this episode. What did we cover? We had drunken celebrities in Philadelphia, the big scandal with John Ritchie getting absolutely wasted with Fred Savage. We had some other things. We reviewed some of our movies that we've seen this year. Why are movies so bad this summer? Why is everybody saying they're not that bad when they kind of stank? I don't know, man. I guess they're just happy that it doesn't have woke in it anymore, which, you know, whatever. I guess I kind of agree. Nobody likes a big old lame, preachy message in a story that's supposed to be fun. But we're just all going to have to deal with the fact that, can you believe it? House of the Dragon stanks right now. Hopefully they take that feedback, man, and get better with it. But at the very least, we got Frankencorn and his Franken bride to look forward to again in Hayride to Hell. So when it's available, I highly recommend getting out and checking that out, people. We'll leave you once again with a little funky presentation here, and we'll get ourselves going with a little bit of houseplant. But until next time, we do thank you for tuning in. We will be getting a little bit more together here. But in the meantime, we'll get another episode going soon. So here you go. We're going to share screen. Hayride to Hell. Enjoy. Pretty wild. I don't want to get sealed for copyright infringement or anything like that, but we'll go ahead, enjoy that, and we'll see you